Good evening, Don't Unfriend Me Nation, episode 460 of the Don't Unfriend Me Show. My name is Matthew Spear. I am the host of Don't Unfriend Me. Good to have you here tonight. We just hit 150,000 on Facebook. Pretty excited about that. Thank you for all of your support. You can follow us at The Dumb Show across all social media, podcasts, etc., and you can find us at thedumbshow.com if you want to get some cool shirts, some hats, some coffee, some mugs, and all that stuff. Yes, a capitalistic piece of crap I am. I want to reach out to Democrats, liberals, moderates, oligarchs, people who believe in anarchy, people who believe in socialism, progressivism, defense mechanisms. I don't care what you believe in. I don't have a care. However, if you are on the side of the gun debate, I want you to take a listen to this video. I want you to give me 15, 20 minutes, it might be less, to actually stop what you're doing and listen. Not talk, not prepare to write a diatribe of information. Just for once, when it comes to this debate, whether you're for or against, pro 2A or against 2A, whatever it is, give it a listen. Hopefully that'll get you to come right back. I found something that I think will help you understand why this debate is no more. I'll see you in just a few seconds on the rebound.
Hi, Matthew. It's Judge Janine, and I wanted to congratulate you on the Don't Unfriend Me show at The Dumb Show. I was thinking about that whole thing the other day when I thought it was right after Donald Trump was elected that everybody on the left started unfriending anyone on the right. So I'm glad you're calling them out. You've got a great name for the show, and I hope that you're true to the values, conservative values, Republican values, and that you call those people out. I think it's great. And I know you've got 135,000 followers. I hope you get a lot more. And just keep the faith. Keep fighting. I think we may get America back. But in the meantime, we've got a steep hill to climb. And you're one of the fighters, one of the patriots. So thank you for what you're doing.
Thanks, Judge. I appreciate the support immensely. Let's get to the show. Now, we all agreed to listen, so let's try to do that. Have you ever had an epiphany? What alcoholics call a moment of clarity, or you have that zap that hits you and you're like, oh my gosh, I got an idea for a great song or a great novel. Well, I'm a little pathetic when it comes to this. I think about politics and amendments and our forefathers and America as a whole and all of these things, whether it be historic or what will be present tense or the future of our country. And there is this new debate that has come up, and it's not entirely brand new. It's about 6 years old, maybe 10 years old. And this whole notion was created by a guy named Azmat Khan. He was a PBS frontline reporter, and he wrote this article, and it was titled "How Conservatives Reinvented the Second Amendment." And I have a post that's going viral on Twitter. I think it's 70,000 views, and people are just, death threats and just horrible back and forth on the right and left, but more on the left. They're pretty upset that I defended the Second Amendment. But this new argument that they have, and I realize that this argument in particular is rooted in all of the arguments that Democrats make about the Second Amendment. And it goes back to the militia. It goes back, who was the right to bear arms for? And I've heard every argument. I've heard the limitation of government. I've heard to stop tyrannical rule, to arm the people for a cost and savings for the United States, not to have a standing army, that we just got done with the Brits, and therefore we knew that there were other major powers that were going to find us as a sitting duck or an easy target. It was all about civilian defense. It was all about preparing to have any type of conflict or state type wars against each other in a civil war type facet, to have the arms ready to go. So many different stories, and none of it matters. It's all crap, because the one thing that will stop the argument is the following. But first, we've got to get into this. I'm not trying to keep you on. It's not like one of those health commercials or the guy who is all fit and he's like, I'll tell you what you shouldn't eat, but first you got to listen to this 20-minute commercial. Trust me, it'll all make sense in the end. I think that's what my viewers will tell you more than anything. For the people who've never watched me before, just stick around. Matt will make sense in the end. Here it is. The founders of the United States had a complex relationship with the government and power. One of the main arguments you hear from Democrats is the following. Why would the government give the people the power to overthrow them? Does that make any sense? Why would they do that? It doesn't make sense. Well, that's not entirely true when you put it into context. The founding fathers were deeply, deeply skeptical of concentrated power, whether in the form of monarchy, aristocracy, or an overbearing central government. This skepticism was rooted in their experience with British colonial rule, which they saw as oppressive and unfair. I think we all know that, especially if we've read a history book or two. As a result, the founders sought to create a system of government that was limited in its power and accountable only to the people. They believed that government should exist to protect individual rights and promote the common good, but that it should not be allowed to infringe on those rights or become too powerful. One of the key ways they sought to limit government power was through the Bill of Rights, which they added to the Constitution in 1791. The Bill of Rights consists of the first 10 amendments to the Constitution and guarantees certain individual liberties, natural liberties, such as freedom of speech, religion, and press. We'll go over these later, as well as the protections against unreasonable search and seizure and punishment. The founders believed that these protections were essential to ensuring that the government did not overstep its bounds and become tyrannical. Now, you might be saying, Matt, I know all this. You're telling me everything I know already. I know. Hold on. They recognized that even well-intentioned governments could become abusive if they were not subject to sufficient checks and balances. And understand, they just got done doing this with England, with Britain, for God and country, and the king. In short, the founders wrote the Bill of Rights to protect individual liberties and limit government power. Period. Limit government power and protect individual, which is where we get our republic. It's not about the collective. That's a democracy. It's about the individual rights. They believed that a free society required both a strong government and robust protections for individual rights, and they sought to strike a balance between these two competing interests. The standing army, there wasn't one in 1791. That's an argument you hear. And they said, well, then this means it's for the National Guard. I want you to think about one thing, and this is going to frame the entire conversation tonight. You just heard how the founding fathers cared about individual liberty, how they wanted to limit the size and scope and area of power of the government. And when we look at the Bill of Rights in particular, listen to them 1 through 10. Even if you've heard them before, listen again and tell me what they all have in common. Sesame Street this for me. Freedom of religion, speech, press, assembly, and petition. Not freedom of having those things done upon you. That is a part of it, but also free for you to express yourself and to ensure your voice is heard. Once again, an active involvement in your freedoms. The right to keep and bear arms in order to maintain a well-regulated militia is the quote, and it always stops there. But hold on to that. Number 3, no quartering of soldiers, which no British were put into people's homes forcefully. Freedom from unreasonable search and seizures. Number 4, right to due process of law, freedom from self-incrimination and double jeopardy. Rights of accused persons, the right to a speedy and public trial. Number 6, right of trial by jury in civil cases. Freedom and excessive bail, cruel and unusual punishment. 8, enumerated powers, anything we've missed, throw it in here. And 10, the powers reserved to the state, the people. I've said this many times, the president isn't the president of the people, he's the president of the states. The governor, essentially, is the president of your state. What's my point? Something that I tend to go a long way around the barn. Here it is. All those arguments you've heard from the Second Amendment fans and for the people who want to abolish and amend the Second Amendment. There is a simple connection and a sinew that brings all 10 of those together. It specifically states by the founding fathers, and I'm going to quote them, "A free people ought not only be armed, but disciplined," George Washington. in his first inaugural address in 1790. Next, no free man shall ever be debarred the use of arms. Thomas Jefferson's in the Virginia Constitution, a draft in 1776, which was laden with where we went with the Bill of Rights and our own Constitution. I prefer dangerous freedom over peaceful slavery, Jefferson also wrote in a letter to James Madison. They can give up essential liberty to obtain a little temporary safety. They deserve neither liberty nor safety, Benjamin Franklin, during the Historical Review in 1759. Before a standing army can rule, the people must be disarmed, as they are in almost every country in Europe. The supreme power in America cannot enforce unjust laws by the sword because the whole body of the people are armed and the constituent, a force superior to any band of regular troops, by Noah Webster. I ask, who are the militia? Quote, they consist now of the whole people, except a few public officers, George Mason, addressing the Virginia Ratifying Convention in 1788. Now, Matt, you promised that one piece that we would be able to show all Democrats and liberals and leftists and any other party except for the people who support the Second Amendment that they're wrong. It's not about being right or wrong. It's to take an argument that the entire Democratic Party uses, and here's their argument. The argument is that the 9 out of the 10 rights all were for the people, that limited the power of the government, that the Bill of Rights is not for the government. It's to absolutely limit the power of the government, which answers the one question of why would they want to have an armed population? But more importantly, why would the founding fathers write all of these beautiful amendments, the first and the second, back to back together, one that allows you to have the freedom to speak and the right to defend it, and then give that right to a state-run militia or a federal standing army and not the American people, even though every single quote that you have from them, even though there was contention, even though people disagreed on the limits and the amount of guns they could possess or how they could possess them later in life, it doesn't matter. The founding fathers didn't care that there wasn't an AR-15 or if it was a bow and arrow. The whole point was to have equal power of the government. That way, it could stop oppression and tyrannical rule. It doesn't make much sense. Now, you can talk about where the comma is and the period is in well-regulated militia. Once again, it's a moot point. If we know that the Bill of Rights was for the people, and we know that the United States government made it that way, our Constitution and our Bill of Rights to represent the individual rights, then they're not talking about a militia. And that's the argument you need to make. I have never heard it. I've been listening to this debate. I've listened to some of the strongest debaters talk about this, and no one escapes outside of the Second Amendment and actually looks at the framework of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Those rights are for us. They're never for the government. So the argument that they were talking about arming a militia is moot and should no longer be brought up because it's been put to bed. Folks, I hope that helps. I hope both sides listened. I hope you have a comment below. Let's try to be respectful. No telling me to go kill myself or threaten murder against me and my family, please. I've had enough of that this week. But tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if you've heard this before. I haven't. And I'm interested to hear your perspective. Because if we can prove that one point, that all 10 were absolutely about limiting government, then it makes no sense that the right to bear arms was for the government. And it takes the Frontline article and completely puts that to bed as well. Folks, thanks for watching the Don't Unfriend Me show. My name is Matthew Spear. I am the host of Don't Unfriend Me. You can find me at The Dumb Show across all social media, and go to thedumbshow.com to buy some hats, some shirts, and all that type of stuff. Do me a favor, 8 o'clock tonight, we will be back. And you can stop by and you can say hello and watch the live show. And then we do that Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We do a recorded show Monday through Friday on most days. You can stop by and listen on Anchor and all podcasts. Search for At The Dumb Show. Thanks for watching. I will go out like I always do with the Veteran Crisis Hotline. God bless, and I'll see you tonight.
I'm David Boreanaz with the Cast the SEAL team, and we have an important message for returning vets.
We want you to know if you're struggling to cope, there's help and it's just a phone call away.
The Veterans Crisis Line is staffed with experienced professionals who know your struggles.
There's no greater sacrifice in service to our country. We're able to enjoy our freedoms because of it.
Your service is important. You are important.
For vets and their families, the Veterans Crisis Line is here to help 24 hours a day. Please call